Welcome back, regular knife people, to another regular guy knife channel show. All right. So as you can tell by the title, right, tonight is going to be the last go round of mods on the Spyderco Smock. Um, we're gonna do some fire bluing of the screws and yeah, do a final assembly, and we'll talk about some of the aftermarket parts used and what I think of them and whatnot. But yeah, so this will be the final finishing out, the final pimpening, right of the Smock. And I thought I would start out with what we're doing with the button, right? Because it is a button lock knife, right? I thought about maybe I would jimp it or checker it, but unfortunately my checkering file is like a 20 lines per inch, so probably a little too coarse for something as small as the button here. So instead, I thought we'd texture it. Texturing tends to go well with an Asian theme. It looks good, it matches. It just goes along with kind of an Asian theme, and it's easy to do. So I'm gonna be doing the texturing here with a carbide bit in my rotary tool, and essentially we're just grinding tiny little divots into the metal surface over and over again in random locations, and then once I'm done, I'll clean up the edges and I'll clean up the texturing a little bit here with the belt, and then I'll polish it up, and then we'll blue it with the rest of the hardware. I just wanted to start out with this here, just kind of a quick overview of what it is when I say I texture something. This is what I do. When I texture it. This is also going to be my first multi-segment video. So we'll see how that goes. Generally, I try to shoot that video all the way through, one go, and let the chips fall where they may. But I think this time, it's just so we don't bore you to death with a lot of the mundane stuff here. We'll cut it out. So I'm gonna grind the first divot just to kind of just so you guys get an idea of what it is I'm doing. Then we'll stop the video, and then we'll get it. I'll finish it out, and then I'll get the bench all set up for fire bluing with the accoutrement, that I use for fire bluing, and I'll talk over that. And then once that's done, we'll put the knife together for a final assembly, and then take a look at the finished product. All right. So yeah, without further ado, here we're gonna cut our first divot, and we'll see how this goes. I hope it's not too objectionable there on the cameras or on the video as far as the audio goes, but yeah. So again, this is just I got a cheap carbide rotary bit set on Amazon, and I use it in my cheap Amazon rotary tool here, and yeah, I just grind little divots across the surface in random locations, meet them all up, and then once everything's done, I give it kind of just a quick sand down and take all the rough edges off, and yeah, we end up with a textured product. So I'll get this first divot cut, and then I'll stop the video, and then we'll go from there. All right. And we're back. All right. So we did the texturing here of the button. All right. Finished it off with the 1,000 grit treated felt bob on the rotary tool, which is what we shined all the hardware with. Right. We gave it just a little quick polish with it. I find that if you polish it, give it nothing extreme, right? But maybe maybe hit it with like 1,000 grit, right? It helps the consistency of the coloring, right? And so what I've got here is this little fixture I made up. It's a 4-inch piece of 3/32 thick steel plate, You know, I drilled some holes in it, and I notched it and bent it and welded it. You know, um, I find it's a little bit easier. The best way to do your to flame your screws is either in natural light or as in low light as possible to see what you're doing. And by having a fixture, you can lay all your screws out, then you're not fumbling with like your tweezers and stuff, like, you know, in the mostly dark, and it speeds up the process. Plus, I think the steel plate, I shine it between uses here, right? I hit it with a flat disc. You know, it's really not shining it, but it helps. It helps with the consistency. It like dissipates the heat a little bit, and I get less of that where one side of the screw ends up slightly a different color than the other. It just kind of helps. It helps even everything out. So I've got all 4 body screws. I've got the 2 pivots. I've got the 3 clip screws. I've got the button. I've gotten the 2 the 2 center spacers and the blade stop. And then I'll end up having to do the pivot here separately with tweezers, because obviously it won't fit into my jig here. And maybe sometime in the future I'll fix the holes and change it out or a little bit. You know, I'll refine it. But it works pretty good as it is. And if I only have to do one piece of hardware, you know, with tweezers, then I'm fine. I like to use a butane torch. I get a lot more control with the flame. I can turn it down, and the flame is really blue. It's a lot more translucent than just like a straight propane or a propane map, and it allows me to see the color a lot better. And the color is really important, because short of being able to take the actual temperature of that screw, we're shooting for a specific temperature range, you know, in order to get the color we want. If we were wanting these to be like a dark brown straw color, then we'd be looking for the 400 450 range. I'm going for blue purple this time, and so I'm looking for the 550 Fahrenheit range, and that's going to make the screws, they're going to glow a slightly orange reddish color, and in order to see that best, it's better to do that in either low light or natural light in order to see the colors the best. And it makes it really easy laying them out this way, because it's amazing how well the human eye will match, you know, one color to the next. And so if nothing else, even if you don't get one, if you're not hitting the exact color you want, you're at least making them all the same color, so it's consistent. I'm going to try to do one here in video, and then obviously I'll stop it and knock them all out and then bring you guys back to see it. I'm not sure how well it's going to video here when I start turning the lights out, but yeah, we'll see. Maybe it'll end up looking awesome. All right. Start turning some of these lights out here, and then we'll see how it looks. So I just try to gently heat around the screw, start bringing the temperature up, and then again we're going to start looking for kind of that orange reddish glow, and then we'll know we've hit the temp that we're looking for. The steel plate here will wick a lot of the heat away, so this will take a little bit longer to heat up than, say, if you had it on a pair of tweezers, but that's fine. I like how it takes just a little bit longer. That means it's just a little bit more consistent. Alright, we're starting to get close. Starting to get a little bit of glow there. As soon as I start seeing that orange tinge, I know it's where I want it to be. And right about in there. Right about there. Alright, so that's the first one done. Going to be slightly strawish, purplish color. I'm going to go ahead and knock the rest of these out really quick off video, and then I'll bring you back. Alright, and we're back. Right, so ended up with more of a dark gold, strawish color, very, just starting to transition into purple. I think that'll look think that'll look really good with the scales and the way they work. Um, yeah. So everything's done. The I think the texturing here on the button, if you can see it, I think that came out really good, and I think that's going to be really nice once it's all assembled there. You know, about average. You know, a little bit more than average parts count, and that's just because we got a button for the, you know, instead of the regular compression lock. But yeah, we'll get this knife all put back together. You can see I already did the acid wash, and like I explained in an earlier video, I'm not gonna do a video on acid washing. Excuse me. It's just too tough. So my method's no different than a lot of other people on YouTube. I soaked the blade, and well, first I mask off all the areas that I don't want to acid etch. I don't want to leave shiny. You know, I mask those areas off. I use a oil-based paint marker, and I color out all the areas, mask them off that I don't want to acid etch. So pretty much any bearing surface, like where the bearings are going to ride, or a stop pin, or where it's where the lockup is, I paint over those there with the paint marker, let it dry, and then I suspended it in a jar of ferric chloride, which is some pretty nasty stuff. But then I just leave it dip down there until I start seeing a good dark color that I want, and then once I'm done with that, I get it with some baking soda and some water and a toothbrush, to nullify the acid and to knock off any of the anything loose, I guess. And then from there it goes into the cheapest rock tumbler I could find on Amazon, and some Harbor Freight ceramic media, and then I just tumble it, and I tumble it until the color starts becoming consistent. I get a good contrast on the high spots, and then from there I just I put a new edge on it, I sharpen it, and then we're done. But yeah, it's just too involved of a process. There's just too much going on, and dangerous liquids to be doing this, trying to film it while I'm doing it. So unfortunately, yeah. Obviously the flaming, we'll see how that goes, post when I'm done and I'm going back and looking at the video. We'll see how that works out. I hope it kind of picked up the color there, and using that I guess that the jig or that screw holder, that's not necessary. You can hold the screws in tweezers or needle nose pliers, just as well. I just like it laying all my screws out, and it just helps me with consistency of color from one screw to the next. And then I can let the screws sit in there, and they seem to cool off, fairly evenly by themselves. And then, it's just a lot less handling tiny little parts with tweezers in the semi-dark. I can just get everything laid out, ready to go, turn my lights out, or move it into a spot of natural light when I'm doing it during the day, and then get those flamed, because the color is really important, as far as the temperature, the color when you heat them up, whether that determines what color the final product is going to be. Maybe some point in the future I'll get me one of the laser infrared thermometers to better help me along, but this this works fine. There's also another really good method out there which uses kind of a little tray, and you can fill that tray up with brass shavings or say copper BBs, and then you heat it from the bottom, and that's also supposed to give you a much more consistent heat. You just set your screws down inside the top of the little tray, the little pan there, and then you heat it up from the bottom, and that's supposed to give you really consistent heating too. But this method with the plate and the stand, it's worked fine for me. So we're gonna keep going with it. All right, so we'll go ahead, and I'll get this knife reassembled. Just a couple of notes. I am removing the second detent This knife, the Smock from factory, comes with two detents. It comes with the traditional detent here on the lock bar, as well as it comes with a secondary detent down here. Now that secondary detent prevents the knife from becoming a gravity knife, and that locks the blade closed, or when it's shut. And it doesn't allow you to do the button lock flick open, right? Because it prevents that. So I'll be deleting that second detent. It won't be going back into the final assembly. And I find really that without that, this thing has a fantastic action. With that secondary detent, the flip on it is it's kind of tough. I mean, it's tough enough to where I was contemplating, doing some kind of texturing or jimping here on the blade surface, in order to make it easier to flip. But without that secondary detent, it's the action then becomes light enough to where I don't need that. So we won't be reinstalling the secondary detent. We'll just be using the standard, detent there on the lock bar. So we'll be putting it back together here. I won't bore you with the whole assembly of it, reassembly of it. I'll get it all put back together here, and I'll get the video restarted back up, and then we'll do a little talking about it, and we'll be done. All right, I'll see you here in a few. And we're back. All right. Final assembly done. Got it all back together. No hitches, nothing. Not a big deal at all, right? Spydercos, they generally come apart and go back together just fine. So yeah, you can see it got kind of that darker straw, almost transitioning to purple color on the body screws, with that purple to then straw color there on the button that I textured. I think that came out awesome. I think it came out just really, really good. Good looking. It has a good feel. No sharp edges to it. And then yeah, the clip. You can see I didn't go with the Lynch clip. I went with the MX gear. I for the Spydercos, for the PMs, and the standard 3-hole American Spydercos, I tend to like that MX a lot more, and it fits the Taichung 3-hole just fine. And I really like that clip. It's a bit shorter. It has a nice rounded edges, and I think aesthetically it's a lot more pleasing than the than the Lynch clip. So yeah, this knife came out amazing. Action is great. Blade looks great. Overall, it turned out to be a definite one of a kind knife, and I love it. The scales, these were from DNA lasering. They came with a sticker for Flytanium, so I'm assuming these are titanium scales that they then went ahead and laser engraved. American made, Chinese made, I'm not sure. Flytanium, they sell both, but I noticed with their Chinese made scales, they tend to be a lot more complex as far as the milling goes, and these are of the a lot more simpler design, which would make me think that these are the American made titanium scales, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, now it went together great. The skiff bearings in this thing are amazing. I mean, this actually comes with some really, really, really good bearings. So I don't know if swapping them out for the skiffs is totally necessary. The bearings that this knife actually comes with are pretty close to what you get from skiff already. So I'm not sure if the swap is definitely necessary. Some knives benefit greatly from skiffs, and some knives not so much. But yeah, I just recently put in a set of skiffs and a new hinderer. To my mind, the bearings that are included with the hinderer tri-way are starting to get cheaper. They don't seem to be as good a quality as they did just a couple of years ago. So I'm not sure, but either way, you know, you're spending that much money on a knife. What's another $11 for a set of bearings? So they get changed out regardless. But yeah, no, I'm over the moon with this knife. It turned out fantastic. It's beautiful, and it's gonna definitely make a awesome addition to my Spyderco collection. So yeah, going on to next week, I did manage to score a hinderer, a new XM18 with the latest DLT drop. So this one is the choiless Warncliffe blade, you know, in M390 steel. And so I think next week, I think we'll do an overview on hinderers, or at least the XM18s, right? Which is, you know, a hinderer makes a few different knives, but XM18 is definitely a knife that is synonymous with hinderers. And so I'm hoping with a couple I've got, and then a couple a friend has, we can do a little bit of going a little bit more comprehensively into a hinderer, and why hinderer, right? Why spend that kind of money? Why go through the aggravation of you know, waiting and hope you get in on a drop? You know, what makes this knife worth that kind of hassle? And so yeah, look for that next week. We appreciate you coming along. Finally got a how-to video out there. I'm you know, not having seen it yet because obviously I haven't got into the editing portion of it. I'm hoping it turns out okay, and you guys enjoy it, and I appreciate you guys coming back to watch me, and all my new subscribers out there, right? I greatly appreciate you guys going ahead and subscribing, and if you like it, you know, and give me that thumbs up in that video, you know. It lets me know you guys give a shit, and yeah. So that's all I got for you guys tonight. This is the regular guy and his regular guy knife channel, and I'm wishing you guys a good night.